go. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's presentation, Your Marketing Questions Answered. Okay, we are super excited you're here. We're super excited, right, guys? We're super
Absolutely.
excited. All right, God bless. I promise that we are going to get you unstuck. That is, if you are stuck, okay? We'll help you figure out whatever it is that you're trying to figure out. We will personally give you a path to never being stuck again, at least until we do this again next year or a week from now when you call us, okay? Does that sound good? Okay, I asked lots of rhetorical questions, to most of which the answer is yes or yes, Rev. Okay? If you're my wife, it is definitely not either of those things, okay? I hope you guys have questions ready, because this whole thing is about questions. And don't worry, if you don't have questions, I have some, okay? Like I said, I'm in like the peak of the espresso, okay? A whole panel is about Q&A, okay? So I want you guys to get your questions ready. Primarily, we want to talk about restaurant marketing, but we can talk about anything restaurant oriented that you guys need to know. These guys know a lot, I know a lot, we're happy to share. We will answer as many things as we can. Now, there are two reasons that you need to stay to the end. Number one, I don't want you to miss anything. There's a wealth of knowledge up here, or as I'm calling it, firepower. And at the end, if you can't already read the screen, I put a lot of things on the screen, we will have a free gift for you, okay? So you stay to the end. I got something that's gonna help you with your business that will cost you nothing. I'm not up here to pitch, I'm up here to give, I'm up here to help. But you got questions on social media, on email, SMS, third and first party conversion, text marketing, what am I missing? Tech, loyalty, reputation management. Any questions you have, they will not be barred, okay? You just ask your questions, all right? Now, again, stay to the end. This is all Q&A, and then we're gonna have a very special gift. Does that sound good? Does that sound good? Oh, that wasn't yes or yes, Rev, but woo works. That is a version of yes, okay? All right, now, we do have a lot of firepower on this stage, okay, and I'd rather not delay getting to the good stuff, which is answering your questions. So we're gonna do some really quick introductions, is that all right? All right, you wanna look us all up later, you can get more introductions online. Okay, let's start off with a quick hello to Robert Greeno. Hi, Robert.
Hi, everybody.
He is the CEO and head coach of 5 Napkin Burger. Anybody into 5 Napkin? Okay, you'll be going later, thank you. No commissions on those, we're good. He is a restaurant lifer. That's also his screen name on Instagram if you follow him. With over 25 years experience in creating, building, and operating next level restaurant concepts. True story. He is the head coach and founder of 5 Napkin Burger, an NYC-based multi-location American brasserie. Did I know that?
Absolutely.
All right, God bless. I don't think I wrote that. He's also a partner in Chef-Driven Restaurant Group, which operates popular restaurants such as Marseille, Nizza, L'Express, Playa Betty's. Hi, Robert.
Sounds good.
David, God bless. All right, please, to my left immediately, welcome Robbie Hoyt, Director of Marketing for Sticky's Finger Joint. Hi, Robbie.
Hi, everyone.
God bless. Anybody here been to Sticky's? You'll be going later, no commissions, we're good. All right, God bless. Robbie has a decade of experience in hospitality marketing and shares Sticky's passion for serving up the best damn chicken finger. What's going on, Robbie?
Not much. Happy to be here.
God bless. All right. And last, rounding us out today is Gary Barnes. He is the VP of Tech and Innovation at Gregory's Coffee, a New York City-based coffee company with the mission of seeing coffee differently. Who's seen their coffee? Who's tasted it? Good stuff, right? I was in Paramus yesterday. God bless. Awesome. They have a drive-through. It's sick. You just pull right off the road, get your coffee. It's awesome. He has helped Gregory's grow from a 10-unit chain to 40-unit company operating multiple concepts in multiple states. Gary, doing well? Doing great. God bless. And if you guys don't know me, who knows me? Other than Recco and David. All right, God bless. My name is Rev Ciencio. Hi. I own a burger joint in where do I own my burger joint? Bryant Park. See the espresso's kicking in. 40th Street, just west of 6th Avenue. I own a QSR. We sell hamburgers. That's kind of the long and short of it. If you guys don't have questions, I do. But if you have questions, I want you to put your hand up or just yell your questions, because we are here to answer your questions. I'm a hospitality marketing consultant. It's my job to know the answers to questions. Does that sound good? All right. I'm going to put this up on the screen. Those are everybody's screen names. If you want to tweet in the middle of us or throw it up on the Twitter, there's the screen names. Let's kick it off. Does anybody have a question? You, sir. I'll repeat the question so everybody hears. The question is, how important is it to have good furniture? I think that's probably a Robert question.
Yeah, I think I've got more furniture than else on the panel. At least upholstered furniture. But you know, as far as marketing and branding, furniture is important in on all levels of dining, fast casual, full service. But quality handmade furniture is certainly one of the things that sets our brands apart and elevates us to the premium end of the burger market. And some of that by Mr. Michael Woolhouse.
He is a hamburger-shaped chair, by the way. I saw it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Cheeseburger-shaped chair.
Kind of piggybacking on that, I will say we, for a while, focused on having kind of not as comfortable furniture in our coffee shops, specifically because one, we thought durability, and two, New York City, we want people in and out. But what we found is that the opposite was actually true. More comfortable furniture means more people coming in because we're there for whatever they need, and so we actually work with Roll House as well, and it's been great.
God bless. Thank you. Anybody else? Question? Ma'am, in the front.
I have 10 coffee houses, and I'm wondering how important it is to have the same price point in each coffee house, even though they're in different neighborhoods.
The question is how important is it to have different price points in different stores, right?
It's a funny question that we've been toying with a lot at Gregory's because up until 6 months ago, we had the same price between Washington, D.C., New York City, Long Island, New Jersey. We have recently started experimenting with price brackets, and it has been helpful. I think for us, a market like New York City, people are more willing to pay more. Others, maybe not as much. And so, we're still in the middle of playing with that. I don't really have a solid answer, but I think it definitely is worth toying with if you feel like there's room to push, because I think right now with inflation and all that's going on, every little bit counts, and so if you can push it, it is more to manage operationally, and that was one of the convenient pieces about having one price, but if you have the ability to do it, I would say push.
Yeah, at Stickies, we have different prices in New York City versus New Jersey, and I think that's how you have to do it. Obviously, your rents in states are different, the taxes are different, so people are already used to paying different prices. If you buy gasoline in New York, the state taxes are going to be much higher than gasoline in New Jersey, so it all depends on the region. I think changing the price to the region makes the most sense.
I'll just piggyback on what Gary said. I think this is a unique moment with the inflation pressure that we're all under. I mean, we've tweaked more prices across our brands in the last 6 months than we ever have, and I think the consumer understands it at this moment more than they ever have. So I would try it, and I'm not in the coffee business per se, but as a consumer, I know the price of my local coffee shop that I'm at every morning. I wouldn't know a town over if the price were different. So with the rent challenges and the labor challenges, I wouldn't be afraid to try now in a way that I would have been more afraid a year ago.
All right, who's next? Who's got another question for us? Now we have a mic out there, so. All right, well, you guys think of questions. I got one for the panel. Oh, sorry, go ahead, sir.
How important is it to have a static menu? Like the same item that's available, not changing menu versus like the cutoff of this wasn't a popular item, let's get something new on the menu.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. It's one that we're also toying with right now. I think in terms of location plays a big part, at least for us in the coffee world. It's like, somewhere like Paramus, New Jersey, for example, where we just opened up, there is more of an inclination for a one-stop shop. Historically in New York City, you had everything you wanted on one block. So you get your coffee here, you get your sandwich here, you get your soup here. I will say the pandemic has changed that, so it should be a constant consideration of like what to sub on the menu. For us, we have chosen to keep our menu, one, limited, but two, like to a set amount. So we've gotten to the point now where, we have 12 pastries. If we're gonna release something new, we're gonna sub something out just for operational consistency. And I think it was a big thing for us to be willing to start cutting things off the menu. One example of that was the glazed donut. We'd had this glazed donut that was Greg's father's recipe, had it since the beginning of the company. During the pandemic, we actually switched from a commissary model of baking to baking on site in each of our cafes and sending the batters directly to the stores. And that was like huge for us because now all the product is fresh, but we couldn't do that with the glazed donut. And so it kind of was this big internal question of, well, are we willing to kill the donut, which is one of our best-selling products, for this new vision that we have? And at the end of the day, we cut it because we want healthier, cleaner products, and we're trying to bake fresh, and that's what we're really holding on to, and so it had to go, and so we replaced it with something different.
That's a great question, and something we've struggled with over the years. I mean, Five Napkins been around 12 years. I've got fine dining restaurants that have been around 20. And so we sometimes err on the side of changing too often, and we freak out our regulars here and there. And sometimes you have to worry, are we doing it because we're bored and there's new things we want to try, or does the guest want new items? But on the flip side, the guests do want new items, but they don't want you to remove items that they love. And especially if there's 10% or 20% of your sales mix on a low-selling item, you may have some real fans. So it's a tough line to balance. I think you have to do it to stay fresh and relevant. But to your point, you have to cut off items as well. Otherwise, you have menu creep, and then quality suffers. And so think about it, keep them moving, bring them back. We've had success with LTOs and seasonal items. So we have our core menu, and then we have the LTOs that are constantly moving. Makes that a little bit easier to message to the guest.
I'll speak from a marketing perspective, because I helped Robert with some of this LTO stuff. We actually did an analysis of people who purchased LTOs, limited time offers, versus our regular guests. So we took the average spend of every single guest in a year, like took that as an average, and then we measured that against the average spend of people who purchased each limited time offer. And at a minimum, LTOs had two times LTV, right? So people who purchased at an LTV were twice as valuable as a regular guest, at up to 5 times, right?
Yeah, so what we saw is that your most regular guests were most likely to try your LTOs, because if they're coming once a week, they're the ones who really want to try something new, as opposed to a 5-napkin burger. If it's your first visit, you should order the 5-napkin burger.
So helpful from a retention aspect. Good question. All right, who's next? I feel like I'm calling on prisoners. All right, go ahead, you please.
What are your thoughts on having like an outside social media person versus somebody in your shop doing it?
I like how you guys all look at the consultant. I think it's a great idea.
For Stickies, and I can only speak to Stickies, we have in-house social media team. I think it's a question you may go to. But our team is comprised of myself. We have a social media manager and a graphic designer. So a pretty lean team, but I think in-house social works great because they're in the restaurants for us. Obviously, a huge space right now is TikTok. It's one of the fastest growing platforms. And something unique, which me and Rev, I believe, talked about, is TikTok has like a 40% unique audience. So 40% of their users can't be found on Instagram. So being in the restaurant, making new content is key. And from our experience with outside, you don't always get them in restaurant. So personally, I like having that person that's in the restaurant every day, having fun, making videos, and really understands the brand.
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of depends on the tone of voice you're going for with the social media as well. We've done both. We had someone outside managing it, and it definitely made it a much easier lift for our team. But now Greg's sister is the one who's actually running our social media accounts, and so she really just like understands the voice that we're going for, and so that does become very invaluable. Not to say that there aren't resources out there to help, but I think like at certain points it makes more sense to maintain a lean team to have outsourcing or to outsource that. So it's like either one can be right, but I think just making sure that whoever you partner with can have the right tone of voice.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can benefit from a hybrid model, right? So it's great to have professional photographers or videographers come in and support you, but I find it's very, very hard to outsource completely, because then you're not getting the brand story out, and you don't have any personal relations in the feeds, especially now with TikTok. I mean, I'm very lucky to have two full-time marketers, and now our TikTok feed is about them more so than our brand. And so it's where we're getting a little traction because of that. So if you can figure out how to tell your brand story and have the people, whether it's you or the people who work in the brand, help with that, and then support that with outside resources, whether it's influencers or photographers or videographers, I think you kind of hit the sweet spot.
That is exactly what we do at our restaurant. I use a service called Targetable. They basically create 3 social media posts for me a week. So I send them the creative, I send them the menu, and then every other day I have an Instagram or Facebook post that they create, and I just hit an approve button. Super easy. I do a week's worth of content in 15 minutes. Okay, but what's missing, it's targetable. Okay, what's missing though is exactly what these guys all said, is Targetable can't tell our story, right? Targetable's not in the store. Targetable doesn't know what my chef told me in the back room. Targetable doesn't know why we do these things. They're very nice people, they do a great job, but they don't get about 40% of what I think you need, right? So there's a certain amount of social media that's kind of repetitive, and you got to make sure your top level menu item is posted once or twice a week, and calls to action are kind of dime a dozen. But it's the storytelling and the creative that I would either keep in-house or at least have somebody who is in-house part-time. It's a great question. Does that help? All right, we go to the batter's box. Gentlemen, I'm going to keep this one easy, but not easy. What are your top channels for customer acquisition? He just throws the mic around. I don't know, you go.
The top channels for acquisition, it may sound strange, but my favorite is actually third party, like Uber Eats and DoorDash. We do a ton of new customer promos, and then the goal is to convert customers to first party, but they have such a large audience where people are looking to eat. So running things like sponsored listings, new customer promos, and then converting them to first party. And we use a feedback tool called Ovation. So we staple like business cards to the bed where customers can leave feedback, and with that they'll get an offer to come back and order first party. So I actually love third party. I never think they're going away. As much as we would love to get rid of commissions, I think they'll be here for a while. So it's just making the best of it.
Who here is using Grubhub, DoorDash, Uber Eats? Any of you guys using any of that stuff? Okay, wow, all right, we got some detractors.
I mean, I think for us, this is maybe a weird way of answering the question, but pushing people to our app is the most important thing we can do. Obviously, we want to get more people in our doors, but then the question becomes how quickly can we transition them to the app? Because we've just seen, on a new download, if we can get someone in 3 times in the first month, their likelihood of being a lifelong regular is 3x. So what we've done, this is like a random example, but when we were launching our Long Island market, we actually did mailers. So we created like a really polished looking mailer, and we put a QR code on it that said, if you download our app, you're gonna get your first 3 drinks free. And so what that did is, we already offered the first free drink whenever you download the app. So we just had to offer 2 more. It was already part of our loyalty program, so it was almost cheaper to think of it in that way. But then what it did is it ensured that whenever they came in the doors, they were already in our ecosystem, and it made it much easier for them to have those first 3 visits in that first month, so that hopefully it built stickiness over time. The one learning curve on that is in Long Island, we didn't think about necessarily breaking down zip code by demographic, and as a result, we got a lot of older people coming in who were saying, hey, what is this? How do I download it? How do I redeem it? So going forward, that is definitely something we're keeping in mind, is how do we make sure to segment by age, or just be sure that we're thinking about it correctly within that. But that was like an interesting, I think, kind of often forgotten tool with the mindset of getting everyone into the app.
I'll say over the last couple of years, we spent most of our money for new customer acquisition on Facebook and Instagram, but it's rapidly been switching over to Google the last 3-4 months. And I think over the course of the next 6 to 9 months, we'll have a higher proportion of our spend moving away from Facebook and Instagram and to Google. Facebook and Instagram we're using to activate our existing customers, and I think we'll keep the spend there, but for new, we're going to move it to the Google side.
And I think building on that, we've noticed the same thing with Facebook and Instagram, but connected TV has actually been one that we're really intrigued by, and we're hoping to launch. So you get more of the targeting, and it has like a really cool effect in terms of feeling like your brand is massive, but it's pretty similar in costs, maybe a little bit more than what you would spend on Facebook and Instagram.
When you're doing those ads, where are you pushing them towards? The app?
Yeah, we're pushing towards that.
Robert, where are you pushing people to in your ads?
Either reservations or to place a delivery order. So I don't care if you're on premise or ordering from your house, we're gonna serve you either way, but either one of those is a new customer. We have other tools running in the background to help get you to come back.
Did everybody hear the common thread in these answers? Waiting for me to just drop that so you don't have to answer? Every one of them talked about a way to capture their guests' information, right? Everybody had a different answer, but everybody's answer led to a way to get their guests' email address or their phone number. Why is that so important?
Well, in general, nowadays, if you're going to be spending money to acquire a guest, you want to be able to get them into your database so that you can get them to come back. And all of our brands are on the higher end of our segments price-wise. So, and all of us have, all of our guests, transact with us, eat with us, dine with us very frequently. So getting somebody into our restaurants is very valuable, or shops, because hopefully they'll come back again and again. So if you're going to spend that money to acquire them, you want to make sure then you can market to them to get them to come back and really be one of your regulars.
And I will say one more thing that we've started leveraging once we get the data is automated flows. That's been like a super helpful piece for building retention, because once we get their data, we know when they came in, and hopefully we have other triggers along the way that we can kind of track their journey. But then it allows us to more effectively and with a leaner team be able to continue to communicate with them and bring them along in the brand story. So, starting off with a welcome email as soon as they come in for the first time and we get their email address, then following up shortly after with a story about our coffee program, then following up with an email about our bakery program. All of that builds brand awareness and gets people more excited about the brand. And once you have their direct contact information, you can just bring them along that journey with you. They get more excited.
Just as a quick aside there, I don't, not knowing exactly how far you are into some of these concepts, there are a lot of great inexpensive tools out there that help you do this now. I'm doing a panel next door tomorrow at 11:15, kind of covering some of this stuff. So if you're here tomorrow, we'll go through it, but there are plenty of great companies out there, like an Ovation or like a Bicky, that can help you do a lot of this for really, inexpensively.
Okay, real quick, show of hands for the panel. Who's using Ovation? Panel? For the panel. Question for the panel. Who's using Ovation? Okay. Panel. Who's using Bicky? Okay. Just let that speak for itself. All right. Did you have more on that? No. Okay. Anybody? Another question? Please, 1 second. She's gonna bring in the microphone.
I know I had to pivot a lot during the pandemic. I had to get rid of some things and added other things that turned out to be amazing and very profitable. I'm wondering what the three of you had to introduce the pandemic made you do that turned out to be very profitable.
That's a great question.
So during the pandemic, and I was just speaking about this before, I think our chicken, a case of chicken used to cost around $60 and it jumped to $120. So we do boneless chicken at Sticky's, no bone in. So we actually introduced chicken thighs, which there's more profit on. And for everybody that has had chicken thighs, they're juicier, they're more tender. So chicken thighs has been a really hot seller for us. And whenever we do promotions with, anything with third party, chicken thigh is always there as a promotion. So it's really finding things that are more profitable, that fits within your brand. So this was the first time we've ever had chicken thighs on the menu, but due to the pandemic, it made us, look at a product that we may not have looked at in the past.
I mean, I mentioned the baking one. That was a big revelation for us that came out of the pandemic. We actually closed our commissary down in DC, and so we didn't have a way to service them with fresh baked goods, and so we experimented with it there, and it's been pretty revolutionary. I think the other thing that the pandemic has done is price differences in different markets. That was kind of inspired by the pandemic. And then I think it's also the real estate that we're picking going forward. We were already pretty gung-ho on suburban markets, and I think if anything, the pandemic just exhilarated that desire to be out there.
Going back to the last question, I would say because of the pandemic, we got much better at marketing and also acquiring and activating our customers. Five Napkin is predominantly an on-premise brand, so we're 80% on-premise. During the pandemic, we operated continuously and we were 100% off-premise. So each and every order, we got better at communicating with those guests, getting them to order first party, getting them to order again, and on an increasing order frequency. So things we didn't really think about that actively pre-pandemic, we spent all of our time on for 2 years, and now it's really benefiting us that the on-premise business is coming back, but we're better, much better with all of these tools that we've been working with.
And sorry, the third-party thing reminded me, this is a small touch that we've started doing, but we write personal notes on each of the bags for third-party delivery. And I think that's just like, people really love that moment, and that's been really impactful.
We go to the back with a question.
Hi, my name is Austin. I represent Uncommon Coffee Roasters. I had a question about e-commerce. do you have like a preference for what kind of platform coffee shops and retail coffee shops would use, like compared to like Shopify, Squarespace, WordPress? We're currently in the process of developing like an updated website, and I know e-commerce platforms kind of like make the difference. Do you have any experience on what type of platforms are best?
Yeah, I mean, we use Shopify. I think the integrations that they have are insane. So e-commerce isn't as big for us, but we definitely have it. It's still a component of our business, but I think Shopify is just like a safe bet. And even as we're talking now with like, we're revamping our app, and so a big thing we're thinking about is how can we, again, have one universal login for everything, and how can we even update subscriptions on our app, and Shopify has the capability to do that.
I'm not really in the e-commerce business, just the delivery order business, and we do that for ourselves with Bebot.
Yeah, our website at Sticky's, the Chicken Finger Restaurant, we just have a WordPress site, and we use Lunchbox for online ordering, which is just integrated into our website. So when customers click order now, it's actually brought to a Lunchbox site, but it looks like it's our own site.
All right, anybody else got a question? All right, gentlemen, we're gonna flip to the other side of the coin now. What are your top ways to increase retention? And we touched on this a little bit, but maybe your top channel, your top move, your top strategy.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned the email marketing flows. I think that's like absolutely huge. And now it's a big lift up front to be able to get these flows to work correctly at different points. But I think that for us is huge. And then also just making sure that our app is like on point. We're currently going through a really big app rebuild, and we're going to go custom. And I think that's a much heavier lift. But anything you can do to improve your app. I mean, Lunchbox is a great example of someone who's done a really good job, and so I think for us, if your app doesn't work easily, like people kind of don't use it, and if you have them downloading it, they're your best guess. So you need to prioritize that whatever you can, and then it's like once you get them in, how can you make it easier for them to use it and remind them to use it easier? So push notification has been really big for us, and people really love that, and now we're looking to in-app messaging.
On the off-premise side of our business, I'm going to go back to Ovation again. We're sending surveys to every off-premise delivery order that are powered by two-way text. So from a customer service perspective, we're solving problems at the time. So if we forgot to catch up or overcook the burger, we're responding in real time and improving the customer satisfaction to try to get frequency, maintain and increase frequency because of increased customer service.
We actually just launched SMS messaging about a month ago, and we actually saw a much stronger response with SMS over emails. So with the SMS that we're using, it's mainly automated, but people could go off script and ask whatever questions they want. So we have the ability to answer however we want, but building that connection with the guest, inviting them back in, giving them an offer if they ordered online last week. The difference between having a chicken finger restaurant and a coffee shop is you can eat coffee or you can drink coffee every day. Chances are you're not having fried chicken every day. So we understand that our customers are more of a once a week, once every 2 weeks customer, but giving them an offer that lasts a little bit longer because we know they're not going to come in the next day.
Okay, show of hands from the audience. Who is texting your guests? Okay, who is Zach from Ovation? You want to text your guests? Talk to that guy. Who on the panel is texting their guests? Okay, we'll let the hand show there. Okay, who on the panel is using welcome email flows? Okay, who in the audience is using welcome email flows? Okay, there you go. We all use, who's using Vicky? All of us, okay. So the idea with the welcome email flow, I'll give this to you real quick. I know some of you were at my panel earlier, we talked about this. The idea is somebody has their very first transaction with your brand, first time they order, the first time you get them into your CRM or your database. The next day, they get an email that says, hey, thanks for ordering from whatever, taco shop, yada yada. Tells them a little bit about the business. And then every like 5 to 6 days, they get another email that Gary kind of just walked you through, where there's something about the brand, there's something about the mission, there's something about the food, the sourcing. And over the course of like 6 to 7 emails over 30 or 35 days, you basically put everything that's cool and awesome and amazing about your brand into their inbox, okay? Now while you're like, okay, that sounds cool, the stat I recently heard, I don't know if you guys heard differently, is that brands who are using a welcome email flow, this like automated email idea, see a 3 times higher 60-day return rate than brands who are not. Okay, I'm bad at math, but that sounds pretty good. 60-day return, that sounds good. Probably higher for coffee. All right, God bless. Everybody thinking about doing welcome email flows now? That's where all your hands go up. All right, God bless. Any other questions? Let's give you the microphone.
I know with the pandemic, we had to do a lot of negotiations with our landlords, and I'm wondering how successful your businesses were getting to get the rent reduced, and about what's the average of rent reduction have you seen the landlords willing to do?
We've had much success with rent negotiations. I mean, we did have to drop 4 shops because they weren't willing to negotiate, and I think we were just like willing to do that, and that was an important piece to be comfortable with, is that, hey, if this doesn't go well, we're gonna walk. But I will say most of our landlords are amenable. We actually are still having rent negotiations. Some of that has like cleaned up, but like even with Omicron, we were able to say, hey, you know, we are still having issues here, help us out, and that was helpful. The other thing that we did, which I think landlords really appreciated, was we said, help us out with 2 months free. We're gonna apply that to renovations in the space for some of our older locations. And I think they really liked that because it showed, hey, we wanna be here for the long haul. It's harder for us to put this money into it to get it where it needs to be. You help us out with this. And so that with like renewed or updated tenant improvement packages were also very helpful.
Renegotiating leases was a big part of what I did during 2020. I did 9 of them, and each one was completely different based on how it was owned, what the base rent was, the mortgage situation of the landlord. So it's very hard to quantify. We did close one location because we couldn't come to a deal. And in general, being a good tenant is very important. And hopefully you were able to use that leverage at that time, and I hope it worked out well for you.
How important do you think it is to respond to reviews? Like not just public reviews on Google, but if somebody sends you a review through Square, that just you see how important it is to just respond to it.
That's your signature, Rep.
This is like my hot button topic. So look, I only have one location. I don't have as many locations as even a fraction of what these guys have. I would tell you that it's essential that you reply to every single customer in every single channel for every single location that you actively manage, right? So if you allow your guests to leave a review on Google and Yelp and Square and TripAdvisor and OpenTable and you have Instagram and you have Facebook, if you use that channel to send out messages, you should be willing to reply to 100% of them, okay? There's a number of reasons. I won't go too deep here. Robert's laughing because he's seen me talk about this. Very passionate. Number 1, okay? If the customer was in your store and they said, I had a great time, what would you do? You would say thank you, right? And at the same point, if the customer was in your store and they told you something went wrong, what would you do? You would make up for it on the spot, right? Why would you not apply the same thinking online? It is purely just good customer service, right? Am I right? Everybody agrees with that, right? Number 1. Number 2, when it comes to places like Google and Yelp and TripAdvisor, right? Somebody can only send you a message once and you can only reply once, but you know what? Other guests read your replies, okay? So when you're replying to somebody or Google and Yelp, you're not just replying as customer service, you're telling every other person that sees that review what it is like to be your customer. You're telling them if something goes wrong, you will be there to make it up to them. And you're telling them that if something went right, that you appreciate it. And again, that's just good customer service. Now the third most important reason, this is the one I get super amped up about because most people don't realize this. If I'm standing in the middle of the street and I got a taco shop and a taco shop, let's say they're almost exactly the same, and I Google best taco shop near me, which one's gonna come out on top of search? Anybody wanna guess? It is the one with the most recent and high rating and positive reviews, okay? So if taco shop over here hasn't had a 5-star review in 3 months, and this one got a bunch of 5 stars last week, this one's gonna come up higher in search. Does that make sense? There's a whole lot of benefit to replying to reviews. Did I leave any room for you guys to answer?
Yeah, I'll just say on top of that, often you think about responding to reviews as about responding to negative ones, and you forget to respond to the positive. I think the biggest opportunity is actually the positive. And especially in an off-premise world where people are dining with you often and never coming into your location, providing that great customer service digitally and in the digital world is really important. So we try to focus on that as well, because that's just a big opportunity.
They're like, no, you stole the show. David, please.
Rev, you touched base that you put the mission statement of the restaurant in online reviews. How long is that mission statement that you usually put?
Oh yeah, David has heard me on this speech before. So I have a formula for replying to reviews that basically is greeting them by their name. So it'd be hello, David, right? Then addressing what they said in their review in one sentence. So you could say, thanks for the 5-star, we're glad you liked the burger. And then the next sentence is a mission statement. So if you go read the reviews on our restaurant, every single review has our mission statement in it. Every single reply to every single review has our mission statement. And to answer your question, David, I wouldn't go more than 2 sentences. If you can get it to 1 sentence, you do it, right? Because again, other guests read those reviews. So you want them to know plainly what you're all about. Do you guys use mission statements in your replies?
Oh, I like that.
Well, tell us. Best damn chicken. Best damn chicken finger. Yeah. Is that helpful? What's your mission statement? Do you have one?
I'm working on it.
All right.
Like, it's too long right now. It's too long right now, so I want to update it to make it to like 1 sentence. So it's good for online reviews.
And listen, if you have a longer mission statement that goes on your website or your masthead or something, like I'm a fan of those too, but in reviews, 1 sentence, 1 to 2. Great question. All right, we go back to the batter's box. All right, gentlemen, how do you measure the results of your marketing efforts?
The main metric we look at Stickies is return on ad spend. So how many dollars do we spend? How many dollars gross do we get back? For example, I mentioned before, we do a lot of new customer acquisition on third party. So on Uber Eats, we do $3 off 20, where we pay $3, and we see on average, a 10 to 1 return on ad spend. So for every $3 or for every dollar spent, we get $10 back. So if we do a $3 off 20 promo, we're going to see $30 in gross sales.
Love that.
I'll just say in a dine-in, full service environment, it's a little harder to calculate ad spend because people may have seen your ad and then they walk into your restaurant and they don't reserve. Again, this is what I'm talking about in my panel tomorrow at 11:15, why it's harder for full service restaurants. But at the end of the day, you have to look at top line revenue and your ad spend as a percentage, your ad and marketing expense as a percentage of sales. And you do still have to have some trust that if you're growing top line revenue, marketing has to be part of the reason.
Like Robert said also, there's some marketing tactics you just can't track. For example, in one of our suburban New Jersey stores, we have a billboard. Unless you have a promo code listed on the billboard, you're never going to know how many sales brought in. So something we do is we look at the 4-week average prior to launching the billboard, the average during the billboard, and 4 weeks post average of the billboard to give you a rough idea how about the brand awareness did for that billboard. But there's some things where return on ad spend just isn't going to work, and there's no tangible way of tracking it.
Yeah, we actually don't even have a marketing department right now, which is kind of funny. We're making our first marketing hire. We just offered the person the position, and for us, it was very much a focus on app and loyalty and all that kind of stuff. So for us, we throw a lot of stuff at the wall and we try and see what sticks. We don't have as many metrics, which we're working on, but I think kind of like Robert was saying, it's like top line is just a really easy indicator of the overall health and the percentage of that.
And it's good to sell an addictive product like coffee. Who needs marketing?
So I'll answer for my restaurant. We have some metrics that we measure weekly. We do this with some of my clients as well, where we want to see the week-over-week performance of like email sends or email revenue, maybe response to a text message or an offer, because we kind of want to know, did that work, should we try it again? And we have some metrics that we measure on a month-to-month basis, right? More of just being able to compare. Usually what though we're looking for is like a signal. Did the thing, like what Robbie said with the billboard, is like, it's not a perfect science, right? But if we know we did an effort, what can we at least measure that signals whether that effort had value or not? Even if we can't measure it in revenue, we want to know what it was. So like we talked about earlier about with the LTOs with Robert, we're like, what's the value of a limited time offer? We can look at sales, but like, it's not the whole story, right? LTOs in that regard, as I've seen with other brands I work with, do great on social media. Well, I can't measure likes in a register, right? But if we grew that month on social media, there's value in that. See what I'm saying? Right? By the same token, then we can measure how did that LTO perform in email. Did that email get a higher click rate? Well, again, can't really measure that in revenue. But then we can go to our database and say, okay, who bought the LTO? How many other purchases did they make this month or year or whatever? So I think the key is to have metrics that you can put around your efforts that at least give you a good signal, if not an amazing signal. So. We have time for about 1 or 2 more questions.
What is the best or most effective way to grow your followers in both Facebook and Instagram?
I would tell you that, so you're gonna get the standard answers. You gotta be consistent, you gotta have good quality images, you gotta have calls to action, you gotta be on brand, you gotta all that stuff, right? The key, I think, however, is to match paid social media with organic social media, right? Because if you have 15,000 followers, I'm making up a number, and only 94 likes per post, you're not reaching all those people. And followers are also known as guests, right? Because nobody follows a brand unless they've eaten there and they plan to, right? So if you're spending money on paid for discovery to get people to find out about your brand, you're gonna put more guests on top and then more people are gonna see you at the bottom, right? So do what everybody else says, but then also do paid and do organic at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very difficult right now. I think everybody on the stage, all our brands have pretty big followings and have grew consistently year over year until about a year ago. And things really slowed down, and it's much harder to grow today on Instagram and Facebook than it was 2 or 3 years ago. So you need to be consistent, and you do need to pay money to promote your content on that platform. And as we mentioned before, TikTok's the new frontier where you can still get organic awareness. Not that it's easy to grow, but if you have a voice and you do something well, I think you have an easier opportunity to grow organically.
Yeah, I might be more interested in measuring clicks to my link in bio than I would be follower growth, just as a note. So, all right, one last question.
Yeah, so these are very good ideas, for semi-established or established company, right? Who's already in business. I'm looking to start a business, and as a new company out there, what are the best channels, that are out there that one can utilize, maybe from free to, somewhat costly that you can absorb to start your business? So it gives you that initial, kick to start your business rather than, just doing it organically.
Are you asking about validating your business idea, or you're asking about gaining followers with no budget?
Both. I mean, if possible, if you can go.
Well, I can't answer on how to validate your business idea. Maybe Robert's a little bit more.
Well, that's a little harder to do on the panel, but from the marketing side, I think new openings and new brands and new launches is an opportunity. I've heard about people having, I know Targetable, who I've mentioned before. When you talk to that team, they talk about events-based marketing. So you're advertising on Facebook for grand opening, and you're building your database, paid for an opening event. So 1 month, 2 months prior to your opening, you're running ads. Join us for the grand opening. And instead of opening cold, you're opening with several thousand people in your database, and they're having great success with that. Those stories I've heard.
These are maybe a little more intangible, but I think one, I don't know where you're at in the process, but the real estate selection process has been so important for us, where we've seen if we try and take a B spot that we maybe feel like could be okay, but it's a good deal, odds are good we would have been better served taking one that was a little bit more expensive, but we knew the location was prime, because that location is marketing in and of itself, and it tells the story itself. So that component, and then also while you're under construction, we've had a lot of success with actually covering all of the windows with branded material, and then having we like to have a text number where you can text and talk directly with us. We put that number and we put a QR code to apply for positions, and that has helped. Like, we saw that at our Paramus location. It took us forever to build that one, but we had it up for almost a year, and so people were constantly texting us, when are you opening, when are you opening, when are you opening, because the location was really good and we told them we were coming ahead of time. So then all of a sudden when we did open, we had that built-in brand awareness, and people were excited. And then I think once they come too, it's like there's so many things that you can do that don't cost much money that still keep people excited and engaged with the brands. Like sending an email, having a reason for them to send their email. We used to do that where, we still do it, where if you drop in your business card, we'll give you a cup of coffee, or we'll like reach out and set up something for your office where we'll bring coffee to your office, because we realize, hey, you probably have 15 colleagues, like we can get them to come in as well. So it's like those small little things that are just more of the guerrilla marketing style that really just like have the strong ability to build, but then also a very personal connection with them.
Something that we haven't done, but I've seen other restaurants and business do it in terms of validating your business, is opening up a pop-up shop. So where I live in Jersey City, there's a really great Italian marketplace called Cangiano's that opened 2 years ago, but 4 years ago, they had a 100 square feet like door where they sold sandwiches out. And for a year, they were just selling sandwiches out this little door. You couldn't walk in, little window, that's all they had. And then they saw that there was a following, and they said, okay, we could put our business in Jersey City, and we're gonna open an Italian marketplace. So try to partner with someone, find someone that has extra space, whether it's a coffee shop, a restaurant, and see if you can do a pop-up location for a couple months. That way, if the business doesn't work out, there's not a big following, it's not a huge loss of investment, but you can prove out your model there. And I believe that's what Dave's Hot Chicken did in California. They started in a parking lot, literally just selling hot chicken, and now they may have 50, 60 units across the country. So I think it's all about being creative. You don't have to spend a lot of money to prove out a concept, you just have to get creative.
Cool. All right, guys, now I promise you, if you stay till the end, you get a special gift, okay? And a few questions came up about this, so I feel like it's useful. I wrote a book called How to Sell a Ridiculous Amount of Burgers, okay? It's a guide for selling limited time offers. I just called it something funny, okay? But it doesn't matter if you're a vegan restaurant or a taco shop or a pizza shop or a coffee shop. This is a step-by-step manual that will tell you, do this, then do that, do that. Who likes guides? I need to be told what to do in order. That's exactly what this book will do. So forget that it says burgers on the cover. It's a guide for selling LTOs, okay? If you want this book, there are two ways to get it. Number one, either bang the QR code, it'll take you to a landing page, you put in your email address, you'll get the book almost immediately, okay? Or you can go to bit.ly/burgerdaybook, and you can get it that way too. Now I'm warning you, I'm going to start emailing you. Robert complained about it before we got started today, because I practice what I preach, and I have a welcome email flow for my business. So if you want the book, hit the QR code, hit the URL, it's a free book. It will show you literally how to market and sell a ridiculous amount of LTOs. And I tested this with Robert's restaurant, so you may strangle me later. Guys, any last questions? We good? Awesome. I want to thank you, Robert.
Let's
Thank
give
you,
him a great
Gary.
hand.
Thank
This
you,
was
Robbie.
a fantastic panel.
Appreciate all you guys coming over. We have a great show. If you need to get a hold of any of us, send us tweets, send us emails, and guys, make it a great tasting day. Thank you.